Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome to the Talent Culture Work Trends podcast, sponsored today by Nationwide. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro, and today we are discussing employee-sponsored retirement programs. As employees navigate their long-term financial goals, they are looking to their employers for support. In fact, a recent study by Nationwide revealed that 7 in 10 employees believe they need their employer's help to be healthy and financially secure. But what can employers do to help employees feel more secure about their retirement? Joining me today is Nationwide's Amelia Dunlap to discuss how employer-sponsored retirement programs can help employees feel more secure about their retirement. Amelia Dunlap is VP Retirement Solutions Marketing at Nationwide. She focuses on solving the unique challenges of the financial services industry. Beginning in consulting, Amelia led sales and marketing transformation programs with her clients. At Prudential Financial, she was the leader in the customer experience organization. At Nationwide, she leads the Retirement Solutions Marketing organization, responsible for using data to communicate and educate participants to plan for and live in retirement. Well, welcome. We're so excited you're here, Amelia.
Thank you. I am happy to be here.
Where are you today?
I am in Columbus, Ohio, which is the headquarters, the mothership for Nationwide as well, although that doesn't particularly matter anymore, but I am a Central Ohio born and raised.
Hey, shout outs to Ohio. We're so glad you're in the house. A lot of people think of Nationwide as a home and auto insurance provider, but they may not be as familiar with the company as it pertains to workplace benefits. Can you tell us about that and what you do for Nationwide?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're exactly right, Megan. Most people, when they hear that I work for Nationwide, they say, oh, you guys do auto insurance. And that is true. It's a very important part of our business. What most people don't know is that we offer a full suite of financial solutions. And so that can be anything from life insurance, annuities, and mutual funds, or the part of the business that I support, which provides retirement plans to both the public and private sector. So think your 401k plan, 403b, or if you work in a government entity, a deferred compensation plan. And so that is a service that we provide to employers and ultimately to employees to help them save for retirement. What many people don't know is that we at Nationwide Retirement Solutions administer about 34,000 retirement plans, again, across all of those sectors, helping to prepare the financial futures for about 2.6 million participants. And so we have a really vested interest in the topics here today because ultimately the workplace is an environment that we are very invested in thinking about how can we help employers reach their employees on this topic of financial wellness and saving for retirement and helping really complete that overall benefits package that they're providing to their employees.
Well, and if you're out there in the Work Trends community, how many of you are thinking in this way about financial and the health around all of that? It's huge right now. Talk to us, Amelia. What are some of the unique challenges that employers are facing today to help employees stay focused and engaged? Because as you just said, the workplace, it's changed so dramatically, and that's changing everything else.
It is. And you know, it's funny, Megan, even when between the time that we scheduled this time for me to be on this podcast to now, I mean, think about the markets recently, right? And how much volatility and more recently downturn there has been in the markets. Well, that's just been in the past couple of months. When you back up, you think, okay, we've got inflation, there's all this volatility. Before that, gosh, we had a little thing about that pandemic that happened, which caused for a lot of up and downside in the market. And so when you think about employees that are in the workplace, they're often, you know, the way that their financial finances are operating is really kind of in the back of their mind, right? And so it's affecting their morale, it's affecting their productivity. At Nationwide, we have a thought leadership group called Nationwide Retirement Institute, and we recently did a study that said that 90% of consumers are concerned about inflation. I kind of laughed when I read that because I thought, well, I'd like to meet the 10% that aren't. Isn't everyone?
Exactly. Like, if you're out there in the 10%, can you give us a tweet and let us know you're out there? I mean, really, Amelia and I need to know.
Right. I'd love to know where you're shopping that you don't feel impacted by this. And so the important part about that is not only is that kind of in the back of everyone's mind, but when you think about employees going into the workplace, this can often kind of cloud, like I said, some of the way that they're engaged in work. And more than that, we know that because of this kind of volatility and challenges that are happening financially, that a lot of employees are setting aside life events. We'll talk a little bit about retirement being one of those life events that people are delaying. And more recently, we've actually started to see that employees, or a small portion of employees, are starting to reduce or stop their contributions in their 401k, which is the last thing we want people to be doing, though we know that, oftentimes in face of, emergency situations, that's a place that people lean to. So this influx of volatility in the market plus the benefit that an employer provides really kind of comes around to talk about the amount of stress that that's putting on employees and what that means for employers.
Let's talk about financial help. What kind of help do employees need to help plan for their future? And how can employers address these challenges?
Yeah. So, one of the areas, Megan, that we've been putting a lot of energy into thinking about is really the idea of financial health is not just being about saving for retirement. That is an important part. We in the industry say, it's time to save, and then save some more. And that's all great. But one of the other things that people are really looking for more support around is, how do I live in retirement, right? When we think about that group of employees, and we know it's a growing population that are nearing the point of retirement, we know from a lot of our research, I think we saw about 1 in 5 people are delaying their retirement or, working longer because they don't feel like they have the right amount of income to be able to live off of. And so when we think about that financial health, we'd really encourage employers to think about, hey, it's not just the here and now. It's not just the immediate, saving for retirement needs, but it's also about thinking about the post-working world and how can we as employers help our participants become even more prepared there. What's interesting is, and again, I'm sure you cover this on a lot of the work trends topics around kind of how the workplace is changing. And one of the macro trends that we've seen is the presence of pensions, right? So rewind back decades ago, those of us in the corporate or private sector, a lot of companies had pensions, and that provided you as an employee with a paycheck in retirement. Well, over the course of the past number of years, pensions have started to reduce, and that ownership of preparing for your retirement and living in retirement has transitioned from a company providing it to you to it being an individual's responsibility, right? That's what a 401k is. And so one of the things that we're really putting a lot of energy into is, how can we help employers start to pick back up on that other side of the equation around providing income and helping their employees understand what that income can be and what that looks like in retirement. So we have a number of solutions, and those that are in the industry, we refer to these as in-plan guarantees, which is really just a way to say inside your retirement plan, inside your 401k, you can start to put money into an investment that will guarantee income in retirement. And so that is something that we're really trying to drive a lot of awareness of as we think about that picture of financial health. So kind of a long answer to your question there, but definitely it's kind of two sides of the equation that we want to make sure that employers are really starting to think about how they provide that for their employees.
What's been the reception of this? I'm just curious, to these in-plan guarantees, and how can we better position this to employees across the board?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as we have done a lot of research, again, in this category of the workplace and looking at employers, we're seeing that 90% of them are saying, yeah, I agree. Income in retirement is absolutely critical to getting to financial security. We're seeing the same thing on employees, right? Somewhere close to 85, 90% are saying, yeah, this idea of income, right? How do I continue to generate a paycheck in retirement is absolutely a critical need. And so we know that the need is there, and we know that that is something that has really kind of been a fire underneath employers and employees. We also know that people are outliving their income, right? And so there's upside to the fact that people are living longer and later into life. The challenge is that gosh, that's a longer time that you're going to need to be able to have that income to prepare for. And so because of all of that, we know that there's this very concrete need in the market. I'd say, Megan, the challenge that we're seeing is that it's one of those areas where oftentimes employers don't know what to do, right? They say, hey, I know I need to be looking at this total picture of financial health. I hear my participants saying that they don't feel prepared for that income. Well, what can I do to be able to help meet that need? And so that's where, again, companies like Nationwide, a lot of other retirement plan providers are starting to lean into this space. I'd also offer up that, you asked about reception, and I think, one of the things that we're going to see really pick up in terms of reception here over the next couple of years is that there have been a number of changes from a legislation perspective that we're seeing coming down from Capitol Hill that say, hey, employers have a responsibility here to help save and live in retirement, and trying to pass regulation that's going to make that easier. And so we tend to see that is sort of the leading indicator. And then in the years to follow, behaviors start to change. Some of that regulation is really just kind of come out in the past couple of years. So I'd say we're still kind of on the earlier side of starting to see some changes take hold there.
What are we doing about younger generations in this equation? I mean, how can employers help with all of this, right? As, times, needless to say, have been a bit rocky. How are we helping people to plan financially for their future and subsequent retirement? And how does that look differently for the generations at this point?
Yeah, it's a really great question because, again, oftentimes we focus in on retirement, those nearing retirement, but for the younger generation, it's a long path to get there. And so one of the things that, again, employers can really be thinking about, and they should be leaning on their retirement plan providers, is to provide more education for those younger cohorts around financial wellness, around the importance of retirement savings. We in the industry often say, if only everyone knew that your retirement plan is the best option for saving that you're going to have. It gives you the most access to investments. It's the lowest cost. Like, if you have a retirement plan, you should absolutely be taking advantage of it. Now, unfortunately, we in the industry know that. I don't know if that is always effectively communicated to employers and ultimately to employees. And so one of the things that I think will also start to take hold here, and this is another one that some legislation could help to inform, are around, for younger cohorts, mechanisms like auto enrollment, auto increase. So, hey, we're not even going to give you a choice. You have to opt out, because we know that, again, behaviorally, people will kind of go with the path of least resistance. And so if we can start to get people in earlier into their savings, into their retirement plan, those early years, if you haven't seen, it makes all the difference in the world of those first 10 to 20 years of your working career contributing, then the kind of dividends that you get for that time in the market is really important. And then the other thing that I would say is that, again, being in a workplace environment, employees should know, they're getting access to these benefits. Oftentimes they might have a match or a safe harbor. They're getting money put in for them as long as they're contributing. So again, it's all about that education. It's all about that early adoption. The other thing I'd say, Megan, is that for younger cohorts, it's never too soon for employers to be talking to their employees, again, about what I often call kind of both sides of that mountain, right? You've got to kind of climb up the hill to get to that point of retirement. But then for anyone who's ever been a hiker, it's sometimes just as hard to hike back down. So thinking about that kind of path to, what we would call decumulation, it's never too early to start at least thinking about that and kind of understanding there is another side of the mountain, and I have to kind of prepare for these equally. I can't just get to the summit and cannonball off, right? And so that's not the education that we want to be providing. Needs to really help people get in front of that.
So what lessons do you think we've learned about the importance of financial security for our futures, especially, in light of, say, the last 2 to 3 years?
I think that the past couple of years, and just, again, this market volatility, and I say volatility because, gosh, For a lot of people, 2021 was one of the best years they've ever had. And this year is shaping up to be a definite downturn. And so that turbulence has really been a wake-up call for a lot of people that had previously been in maybe a stretch where things had been kind of just ticking along up and up and up for a number of years. And so this really underscores the need for people, our employees, to understand that, hey, adversity is going to happen and that you need to be, again, kind of thinking about this plan long term, right? So putting your money in your retirement plan, continuing to save, diversifying your investments, all of those good kind of keywords that you hear. Well, people don't really listen to those until things get bad. So right now we have a really unique time for employers because they've got the attention of their employees. We know, like I said at the beginning, that this is something that's absolutely on the minds of employees. It's causing stress. And so we want to make sure that people are really thinking about, and employers are thinking about, how can they provide the right education, the focus on outcomes, and not only in saving for and living in retirement, and then recognizing that we in the financial services industry, we plan for downturns, right? And despite the best laid plans, there are always going to be down years. We tend to see that those down years are passed by even higher uptick. So which is always the reason to say, hey, keeping your money in the market, it's a long-term play. Want to avoid kind of making any sort of emotional or kind of knee-jerk reactions there. And again, really kind of looking at that longer term view, we know that, a large majority, especially in your younger generations, millennials and Gen Xers, are really concerned about a recession. And I mean, everyone is, but the message that employers need to be bringing forward is, hey, we've got the right kind of mechanisms and safeguards in place so that now, can we avoid a recession? No, but the institutions that are behind this have planned for this, and it's a long-term play to be able to provide some of that kind of cushion around their savings there.
So last but certainly not least, what kind of changes do you see happening in the future when it comes to retirement savings and all the options through employers?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mentioned earlier about, some changes that are happening legislatively and on a regulatory front. So we refer to, and it's called Secure Act, which was a bill that was passed by Congress in 2019. And I'm probably going to get this wrong. It's like setting every community up for retirement something. So it's all about helping all communities, all employers, all types of employees be better prepared for retirement. And we saw that was really, there were a couple of big changes that came out of that are starting to shape the landscape of retirement savings, making retirement plans more available for small business owners, making it more advantageous for small business owners to provide a retirement plan for their employees, which we all know is a key benefit for attracting and retaining talent. And so I bring that up to say that was back in 2019. We're now on the 2.0 version of that. And so right now it's kind of going through the House and Senate, which is kind of the 2.0 version of helping Americans better save for retirement. And so this is all about trying to remove obstacles that we know kind of get in the way of helping people meet their retirement needs. And so you'll start to see, and again, we don't know what will make it into the final bill, but there are a lot of provisions with that which will be really advantageous, again, for employers and employees. It's all about making it easier. So again, small businesses, startups will start to be able to exercise a bigger tax credit for providing a retirement plan, being able to provide those plans to part-time workers that have been there for 2 years or more. We're also starting to see some interesting influx of looking at student loans, which again, we all know is one of the biggest financial challenges that people often enter the workforce with. And so looking at some creative ways where companies can still provide a match into your retirement plan if someone's paying down their student loans. So there's a lot of really exciting provisions that are at least on the table now. We'll know probably at the end of this year kind of what makes it into the final bill. But, we in the, nationwide, and I'd say the industry at large, sees this as a really positive, it's bipartisan. Everyone is supportive of of, it's all good things that are going to help companies and employees better prepare their financial health, which is ultimately going to help them be more productive and have more productive employees. So it's all kind of a win-win. So we're really excited about that, which is going to come out of that provision, hopefully here at the end of this year.
Wow. Just wow. I want to thank you because you have helped us really understand, especially in this dynamic and challenging economic climate that we're all in, that there's a way forward. And we want to just thank you for stopping by today.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you having me and getting a chance to talk about this. It's something that we care a lot about at Nationwide and how we can help people protect their future with extraordinary care. And so it's something that is very near and dear to our hearts. And thanks for giving me a forum to talk a little bit more about it with your audience.
Thanks for listening to the Work Trends Podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to tune in for our next episode. Catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.